people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. The latest from newly minted, undisputed super bantamweight champion Ellie Scotney, who says, I've given 4 years to 122 pounds. Blood, sweat, and tears, and yeah, even my hair in the final cut. But I stayed because I had one mission. Leave with every belt. One by one, champion to champion. No vacants, no favors. I've always said that integrity is everything, and I'd like to think I held on to that through it all. Thank you to my family, team, and most valuable promotions. So many of you have played a part in this moment. All the glory to the Lord as I step into this next chapter, featherweight. Now awaits.
Catford.
She beat Shernika Johnson for the IBF, and then unbeaten Sigolene Lafarve for the WBO, Yemi Mercado for the WBC, and lastly, Mayeli Flores for the WBA. No vacants, no world titles of opportunity, no easy outs. She now ascends to the featherweight division like I thought she would. A lot of people were holding out hope that she might give Skye Nicholson, the WBC's interim champion, the time of day, but I figured that fight doesn't mean enough to Ellie for her to boil down to 122 one more time. It honestly is one of the bigger and better fights you can make, anywhere in between 122 and 126, between two familiar fighters, two quality operators, but I figured for Ellie Scotney, there's nothing in it. It's more trouble than it's worth. So now she's moving up to featherweight, where there are not one, not two, but 3 reigning champions. You have unified champion Amanda Serrano holding 2 of the 4 titles at the weight. You have Tiaria Brown holding the WBC, and Germany's own Nina Menka
Catford
holding the IBF. Which one of these champions will she end up fighting? I don't think she's going to get an Amanda Serrano fight because I think that Amanda is very close to retiring. Maybe she can fight for one or some of the titles that Amanda holds after she's gone. I could see that, but not a fight between them.
Catford.
When it comes to Nina Menka, there's already one other MVP fighter hot on her trail, Elizabeth Oshoba, which we talked about in my previous video, so I don't get the sense that Ellie is going to fight either Nina or Elizabeth. Maybe Ellie will end up fighting Tiaria Brown.
That's not a bad fight.
Not bad at all when you consider that some may be left disappointed that Ellie's moving up without fighting Skye Nicholson. What would be better than fighting the woman that beat her?
That's better.
And what becomes of the titles that she is now set to leave behind at Super Bantamweight? We already took a head count. We've already been through it, but just a refresher, who's in line to fight for Ellie Scotney's titles once she drops them? Via the WBA, former champion Mayeli Flores is the highest-ranked contender, so it's conceivable that in the not-so-distant future, she will be WBA champion again. Via the WBO and the IBF, America's own Micaiah Krebs is the highest-ranked contender for both, though I think she can only really fight for one alphabet title at a time, which begs the question, which one is it going to be? Is it going to be the brown belt, or is it going to be the blue one? And of course, via the WBC, you have Skye Nicholson, who's interim champion. It's conceivable that once Ellie drops that title, she will be elevated to full WBC champion, and these are the fighters she's going to have to deal with. She's going to have to deal with Micaiah Krebs. She's going to have to deal with Mayeli Flores, and not just them, she's going to have to deal with an entire host of formidable adversaries and worthy contenders, because the super bantamweight division is a deep division. It's not just the fighters you know, there are the fighters you don't. Skye Nicholson, in the absence of Ellie Scotney, will fast become the most recognizable fighter and the biggest name at the weight, so I expect that all of these champions and all of these contenders
will descend upon her.
It's a blessing in disguise, really, because even though I don't like Sky Nicholson's base style, she's very effective with it, and I think that she can beat most of these girls fighting the way that she fights.
Save the pressure fighters like Erica Cruz and Mayeli Flores and Nazarena Romero. Sky Nicholson could probably beat everybody else.
And that's how I think it's going to go in the absence of Ellie Scotney once she leaves behind all the belts that she used to hold.
Onward and upward.
Now for a somber bit of news that I touched on yesterday during the live stream, apparently there have been major layoffs at Boxingscene, one of the tried and true boxing periodicals based out of the United States. A lot of writers have been let go.
And you can make certain inferences as to why. I mean, in a very general sense, print is a dying medium, and it has been for at least the last 2 decades. With the advent of digital media via the internet, people just don't read as much as they used to, not when they can consume the same content some other way. To get the same information, veteran boxing scribe Jake Donovan said, "I'm not sure what's happening at Boxingscene. I left a few weeks ago for my own reasons, but getting rid of your top editor, along with nearly the entire U.S. team, doesn't bode well for the site's future."
No, it doesn't. And what else was intriguing, what else Jake Donovan said when he was asked, is he still going to be working in boxing in any capacity?
He said, "Barely. The sport is assed out and is no longer worth my time." So as stated, I think a part of the problem for Boxingscene is that for some time now, print has been a dying medium, and plain old black and white is just not enough for this younger generation, for some people, and their dwindling attention spans.
I noticed it about 3 or 4 years ago, via their X account, that they weren't getting the same number of likes and the same number of retweets that they used to covering the sport of boxing.
The engagement was starting to die down.
Boxingscene used to be owned by CBS, and it had a symbiotic relationship with what other boxing programming CBS was involved with.
The Showtime stuff.
And for a time, they were thriving. More than just surviving, they were doing well. But, little by little, things start to die down in the American boxing scene, and you have to see how that would affect the boxing writers, in tandem with print being a dying medium.
Boxing is not a mainstream sport. It hasn't been for many years. Now it's a niche sport for a very niche audience that seems to get smaller and smaller in this country every year. Other markets are flourishing, like the UK market and the Japanese market, the Aussie market, and the Mexicans love their boxing.
So do the Argentines, but what used to be the powerhouse for the sport, the mecca of boxing, the United States, the sport is not mainstream, it's not what it used to be, and that has a trickle-down effect on everybody involved, including the boxing writers and the boxing periodicals. When you consider that every major American network withdrew their investment from the sport of boxing, it's not hard to see how we got here. Boxingscene once used to be owned by CBS, then ProBox purchased it. Gary Jonas.
That wasn't that long ago either.
Don't need to be an expert economist to know that layoffs herald financial struggles, financial trouble. So, is Boxingscene having financial trouble? An insight into ProBox having financial trouble. How long before ProBox has to let people go, lay people off?
One could follow the other. I mean, I've never really understood what ProBox's revenue stream is anyway, and I like ProBox and the fights that they put on and the content that they put out, but I just don't see how they could be making any money.
I've my suspicions about them in any event. Boxingscene, which in many ways has been a cornerstone of boxing coverage for the sport here in the United States, seems to be facing financial struggles. Not having the same financial backing as, say, Ring Magazine, which we all know is owned by Turki El Al-Sheikh, who has invested a great deal to revamp the periodical to where it's not just black and white, it's not just print anymore, it's digital media, it's events, its profile has gone up significantly the last few years, whereas Boxingscene's has dwindled.
You have to wonder if he won't get involved with that too, to maybe try to save that website, try to help them.
He doesn't need to, because he already has that area of the sport covered via Ring Magazine, but he's got the money to do it. If anybody does, he does.
What about TKO? What about Zuffa? Maybe they get involved? involved?
I'm just bouncing ideas around. Who has the resources to save Boxingscene if they are in fact going under? Why did they lay off so much of their staff? Is it because Boxingscene is set to go under, or are they under new management? Does somebody else own it now, and things are going to be different? Your guess is as good as mine, but as stated, in a very general sense, the way people consume content has changed in the last 20 years or so to where just writing about things doesn't yield the same appeal that it used to. This younger generation, they don't read.
The attention spans are a lot shorter.
Their collective minds have been adapted to only really focus for about 30 seconds or so via Instagram Reels and TikToks.
Adapted to short-form content.
To where a 5-minute read to them is like sitting through Gone with the Wind without a bathroom break.
It's too much.
Just feels like the sport is running out of impartial observers to chronicle its events. I mean, Ring Magazine is owned by Turkey LL Sheikh, so partiality is implied in the content creators. They're partial to whatever fighters they like and whatever fighters they have access to, those professional relationships, so they're going to cover the sport a certain way too.
There's going to be partiality there too.
I suppose at this point it's going to be too much to ask for the American boxing fan to get even and unbiased coverage of the sport moving forward. In some ways, that's what Boxingscene represented. Some ways.
In what is a related story, related in some ways, Max Kellerman's Dubois versus Wardley take deepens a troubling pattern. Max Kellerman is facing fresh backlash after downplaying Daniel Dubois versus Fabio Wardley despite the heavyweight battle being widely praised as one of the year's most entertaining fights. The veteran analyst argued the fight was not great because Wardley only really won the rounds where he scored knockdowns, while Dubois controlled most of the rest. But many of boxing's most memorable fights have never been close on the scorecards. Some became classics because of the danger, the atmosphere, the knockdowns, or the feeling the fight could end at any moment. Others are remembered for violence and drama rather than tactical balance. Dubois versus Wardley clearly fell into that category. Wardley dropped Dubois twice early and looked capable of ending the fight before Dubois gradually broke him down in a brutal heavyweight battle that finished with a late stoppage. Whether fans viewed it as fight of the year or simply one of the year's best heavyweight contests, the reaction across boxing was overwhelmingly positive, as were the ticket sales. They sold the place out.
Where initially, Ring Magazine reported that they were struggling to sell the tickets for the fight before the tickets had even gone on sale, accenting the troubling pattern. In tandem with Max Kellerman's comments that quickly became less about the fight itself and more about the reasons behind it, the former HBO and ESPN voice built his reputation as one of boxing's sharpest analysts, but recent months have seen growing debate around the direction of his commentary since becoming closely aligned with the Zuffa and Ring Magazine movement. Backlash to Kellerman's praise of Edgar Berlanga, his attempt to frame Jai Opataya as undisputed despite multiple cruiserweight champions still existing, and his open support for Dana White, refusing to recognize sanctioning bodies, have all added to the scrutiny surrounding his recent commentary. The pattern surfaced again over the weekend at Zuffa 6, when Kellerman compared one of the promotion's emerging fighters to Miguel Cotto, another moment that immediately drew criticism from fans who believe legendary names are increasingly being used to inflate newer talent tied to the project. Individually, those moments could be dismissed as strong opinions. Together, however, they are beginning to create a different perception.
Yeah, this guy's a fucking shill.
Some fans now believe Kellerman increasingly leans into polarizing takes designed to generate debate and social media engagement, rather than simply offering independent analysis.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith do this for years.
For a broadcaster once respected for his independence, the credibility damage is becoming harder to ignore. That does not mean every criticism he makes is wrong, but in the case of Dubois versus Wardley, many observers felt the argument itself failed to hold up. A fight does not need evenly split rounds to become memorable. Heavyweight boxing history proved that long before Dubois and Wardley stepped into the ring. So what was really behind Max Kellerman's critique on the fight.
He's a company man. He's towing the company line. You think it's a coincidence that Ring Magazine tried to poo-poo on the fight's ticket sales before they actually went on sale?
Let me jog your memory what Ring Magazine had to say about Frank Warren and Queensberry at the top of the year. They said, rumors are circulating in the boxing world that Queensberry is in financial trouble. Without a continued business relationship with Sella and TKO, the loss of those relationships has influenced Queensberry's threat to sue Sella and TKO.
This is supposedly per rumors. They seem like rumors that Ring Magazine started.
Rumors indicate that their announcement to the media of legal action was timed before their Wardley versus Dubois press conference, which took place today for an event which is struggling to sell tickets.
You mean the event that ended up selling out with about 18,000 in attendance?
Queensberry have not been promoting any Riyadh season fights since last November, and there are no plans for the two sides to work together in the future. There has been intensified concern among the stable within Queensberry when it was learnt that they were not being used as a promotional entity for Tyson Fury's big UK comeback in April, and this concern has led to a scenario where a number of their fighters are seeking other promoters. Turki El Sheikh and Sella were made aware that the rumors of litigation were leaked from Queensberry, and this has created an unreparable rift due to Queensberry's cordial communications in the open and being volatile behind the scenes.
So here's the skinny.
You see that Ring Magazine all of a sudden starts putting out anti-Frank Warren, anti-Queensberry propaganda, and you think it's a coincidence that Max Kellerman tried to poo-poo on one of their fights? It's not.
The one they said wasn't selling out.
You know, they lied when they said that Queensberry Promotions was struggling financially when Company's House shows Queensberry Promotions posted a $15 million profit for the tax year up to end in March of 2025. And the tickets for Wardley versus Dubois weren't even on sale yet, so how could they have been struggling to sell them?
Max Kellerman works for Zuffa, works for Ring Magazine, both of which are involved with Turki El Sheikh.
Turkey's currently got beef with Frank Warren, thus, it's not hard to figure out what's really going on here and what really motivated Max's comments about the fight.
It was just another way to take a shot at Queensberry, but I want you to pay attention to something. Queensberry were able to put together a sellout show that everybody enjoyed afterwards, all on their own, without Turki El Sheikh, without TKO, without Sella, without any of them. They were able to do that. And you wonder why I keep saying, in the end, it's gonna boil down to know-how.
Because you can have money, you can have buckets of it, and not know what to do with it. How best to use it. That's how you end up fucking off $15 million on Conor Benn to fight a faded Regis Prograis.
Frank Warren put together a better fight for a fraction of the cost and actually entertained a lot of people because Queensberry's got the know-how, the insights, how to make it all work and put it all together.
How to develop fighters and turn them into marquee attractions that you still need to use for your shows, because Agit Kabayel, he's signed to them, and so is Hamza Shiraz.
You want to put Agit Kabayel in the ring with Usyk, you're going to have to go through Queensberry, and if you want to keep using Hamza Shiraz, it's the same deal.
It's the same thing. So Queensberry and Turki El Sheikh are sort of on the outs right now. And if you're wondering, why did Max shit on their fight? That's why.
He's being a company man, towing a company line. He doesn't have to be so obvious when he does it, as he's falling fast. Falling out of favor with a lot of people.
But that's what's going on. Another Cold War in the sport of boxing.